going live now. While that's going, I'm gonna do this tweet. Let's see.
Yeah, definitely check out how we sound as well. All that good stuff. Um oh man, I love how like I opened up YouTube and the first thing that I see is a Ben 10 Omniverse gameplay video for the Nintendo DS. Like what?
What were you watching?
No, so like it's like I signed out of YouTube, so it's just like I don't know, like the default like YouTube. Like I'm not on an account right now because I'm about to sign into ours.
Uh,
So like it literally just like it's like one of the recommendations. Like that's so funny.
I didn't
Um,
realize how popular that show is until I, well, yeah, seeing it on YouTube and stuff like that.
man, that show was the shit back in the day.
That was Nickelodeon, right? No, Cartoon Network.
Cartoon. Yeah.
It's Cartoon Network. Yeah, I was a Nickelodeon head,
Mm,
so I watched all the stupid stuff, Jimmy Neutron, all that good stuff.
yeah. Watched all that stuff too, man. It was a good time to be alive.
Facts. When Pants Attack was a monumental day in history for Jimmy. I'll never forget that night when that episode premiered. And I'll go to school next day and talk about it with everybody. Man, I miss those times. I really miss those times, dog.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, those were the best times, man. We don't have cartoons nowadays. They are like they used to be.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
How do we sound by the way?
So far, so good. Let me just do a quick check on Twitter, stuff like that, and be good to go.
Cool. Yeah, so while you do that, I will work on the thumbnail. Trying to think. I already have marathon.
Alright, we should be good.
Awesome. Okay. Um. All right. You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Um. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to God. What what episode is this? It's
105.
105, man. You can tell we have not done this in a while. Yes, 105 of the DualShock and Sense podcast. I am your host, Soul, the connoisseur of anime waifus, joined by we have two-thirds of the usual suspects here. Macho, how you doing, man? What's going on? How you been? How you been?
Busy, good, fun. It's been quite a couple of weeks, man. The last time we had a podcast was right after Final 16 came out, and before I went
Yeah.
on vacation. So enjoyed vacation in Florida. Met up with Walt, and we had a cool double date. Um, but lately, I've been mostly just been really just diving deep into Final 16 and board games, man. Board and card games. Uh,
Awesome.
me and the wife have been playing a lot of Disney Villainous, which I talked about before, but we also been diving into more like since the Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings came out,
Yeah.
we kind of been looking at different kind of card games to play. So I ended up picking up like a box of the Final Fantasy trading card games. So we're gonna learn how to play that. And yeah, man, it's been kind of diving into like more like home stuff since I've been coming home from vacation. But man, how you been? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. That's so funny that you mentioned Magic the Gathering because I was in class yesterday and this guy was like explaining to me like his deck and all this stuff and like I had no clue what he was talking about the entire time. Like I was like, all right, go off, man. I'm happy for you, but like I don't know what any of this means, man. Back in my day, we had Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and it was easy to to play those games. But
Yeah,
Magic just seems like something else entirely, man.
a little bit. I mean, I've seen a couple of videos on like how to play, and it's very similar to the Final Fantasy trading card game, where you have like a backup row, and you have your forwards that attack and stuff like that. So there's a lot of similarities. It seems like everything kind of stemmed from Magic the Gathering, anyways, but more simplified. But yeah, I mean, Magic is something else entirely. People are talking about 100 card decks and like, yeah, it's kind of nuts. But the art on the cards are really cool. So it's nice to
Yeah,
see people get excited for that.
yeah, they definitely are really cool. Yeah, definitely been a lot has been happening. I got a new job.
Oh,
Um,
sweet! Congrats.
yeah, man. So we'll see how that works with the podcast. We'll see.
Uh oh, might need
Um,
another shift. Uh
yeah, for sure. Um,
oh.
but yeah, I'm really excited because oh, man, this current job that I have is just like it's not like it's chill. It's a super easy job, but like it's not paying me enough like to like survive. So like and buy the games that I want to buy. You know, the most important thing, obviously.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Who
So
needs
this is
food when
definitely
when you have games?
yeah, exactly. So this will definitely help out a lot. Still chipping away at school, obviously. And yeah, just playing some games as I know you've noticed.
I
Um,
have, yeah. I was quite surprised. This man's doing everything to avoid the one game that cost $70.
um, yeah, playing games, watching TV shows, watching movies. You know, same old, same old. We'll get into that for sure with our next topic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, want to remind everyone to go ahead and like the podcast, share it out, all that good stuff. Um, so yeah, let's get started with talking about the games that we've been playing, things that we've been doing these past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I guess I can go first because mine is I mean I can go through this like really quickly. I
Oh
mean,
no,
then again,
we're gonna talk about you been playing. We're not talking about it.
I mean that's what I was about to say is that
Uh huh.
like I was about to say that like we could go this through this quickly, but then again, like we literally have like this and then one topic, so it's like we could spend as much time on this as we want.
Yeah, we've been gone
So,
for like nearly a month, so let's dive deep into these games we've been playing a little bit
oh
better, a
boy.
little more. Now that Walt's not here either, we don't have to have his rambling ass go off about colors and shit. So,
Oh man. Uh, yeah, so oh man, let's see. Okay, so for the channel, I have some ideas brewing of like videos I want to do. So I want to do like a Horizon Zero Dawn like story video, just like talking about that story because like I don't know, man. Like I was just like randomly watching people play through that game and the like reacting to the ending, and I'm like, man, dude, this game had a really dope story. I kind of want to talk about it. So yeah, I want to do that sometime in the near future. I
it's a
want to
sick
do
sci-fi story, man. People don't give it enough credit.
yeah, it's really good. I want to do. I've already written a little bit of the script for a Witcher season three, volume one video that I want to do, just talking about it.
Ah,
Because that
okay.
was one of the things I've watched, you know, between this podcast and our last one, obviously.
I'm looking forward
Um,
to it. So are you gonna get more into that because I haven't watched it? I'm kind of hesitant, like approaching it.
um, it's okay. So it's much better than season two. I'll give it that.
Oh, okay.
Um, season two is just like to me it's so funny having The Last of Us and then having this kind of feel close together because Last of Us is like a prime example of showing you how to like an adaptation done right, and
Mm-hmm.
then The Witcher season 2 is just like it's literally them just like taking the framework of The Witcher and then just going in a completely like their own original direction with it. Like it's a storyline that they completely made up themselves. And
Hmm.
the funny thing about season three is season three has to do so much groundwork to like recover from the mistakes of season two, right? Because you saw season two, right?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the whole big thing about that season was the whole like Volith mirror thing, that whole the witch that like Yennefer and Francesca were like they basically had to make a deal with the devil to get their powers back or whatever, and then the
Right.
big thing was Yennefer sacrificing Ciri to that witch in order for Yennefer to get her powers back, right? all of that stuff is completely Netflix original and was never in the books, but with that being literally the big story of that season, it like literally ruins the relationship between Yennefer, Ciri, and Geralt.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have the weird thing about Eskel, which we've talked about, right? Vesemir as well. His whole subplot about like putting the Witcher potions in Ciri, which is something that, if you've read the books or you're familiar with the games, that's something he would never do. But in the show, his big like plot or subplot or whatever is deciding upon whether it's morally okay for him to do that or not.
Yeah.
um, and so season three, the whole like beginning of season three is like them trying to clearly trying to, it's like them recognizing they went a little too far about doing their own thing with season two, and the beginning of season three is like all of these moments of Ciri and Yennefer laughing and Geralt laughing and having fun together, trying to like mend that broken relationship because of season two.
Wow. So
So
damage control.
essentially, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Um, yeah, but then again, it's like this season's a lot more faithful to the books. There's moments that are like literally just like ripped right out of the books, which is really cool. Um, but yeah, I'll get more into it in that video. But again, it's this insistence that they have of like really focusing on characters that like got like maybe a chapter in the books, maybe got like a short story in the books, like Istrid, who was like a mage that Yennefer had this short little fling with, and Geralt and him end up fighting in a little short story for like Yennefer's love, pretty much. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
remember.
and this character, I just don't. He's so dull, and I don't understand why they insist on making him be a bigger character than he is. No one cares about this character, but yet again, like here he is in season three with doing his own thing, his own plot. Same thing with Stregobor. He's in one of the short stories in the very first Witcher book, the Butcher of Blaviken one, right? He's kind of like the villain of that little short story. And for whatever reason, Netflix really wants to make him a big character because here he is again in season three, like
Yeah, I
doing
was
his
very
own
confused
thing.
by all of that because I was like, he's in for that one short story, and he was great.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, and you could go down the line of them doing this with various other characters who really weren't that important in the books. Fringilla, one of the Lodge of Sorceresses members,
Hmm.
she doesn't really become a big character until the final book in Saga. Yet she, I mean, really since season one, she's kind of been like a really big prevalent character. It's just like none of these decisions are like fleshing out these characters in interesting ways. Like it just feels like it's muddying like who these characters are for me a little bit, especially Ka here, man. And as you know, like he's one of like the Hansa members that Geralt puts together in the later books, and it's just like I don't know if like all of these new Kahir moments and finding out more about him and seeing him with working with the elves and seeing him with Fringilla and seeing scenes with him and Amir. I don't know if that's really adding anything positive to that character. Because in the books it's like we see him very sparingly until um I believe baptism of fire. That's when we really kind of get like more introduced to him. So like I don't know, man. That's my big thing of just like turning minor characters into bigger deals than they actually are or that they actually like deserve. Um I don't know. It's bizarre.
It really
Um
is the opposite of The Last of Us, right? Where we had
yeah.
characters where we barely knew of, and we just got more insight into them in the show. Like more, and we can argue, even say that some people like the characters in the show more than they did in the game.
But and it also made sense, right? Like
Yeah. Hmm.
doing showing Sarah in like as much Sarah as we did, like her going to school, her picking up the watch, her interacting with her neighbors and things like that. That
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
makes sense and it feels like consistent with that character. It's nothing like I don't know. I can't come up with an example, but it's nothing like too like it. It's not them doing too much with that character, right? Everything that they added with that character makes complete sense. Whereas The Witcher, it just feels like they're doing way too much.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's my gripe with the season. It was okay. I didn't hate my time with it. It's a good like 6 out of 10. They handled the Thaned banquet stuff like uh pretty well.
I
Um,
saw a couple clips of that. It looked interesting. I was enjoying the character dynamics, but
Yeah, it's okay.
yeah.
We won't see like the like the red wedding portion of the banquet until volume 2. They left off on a cliffhanger before shit really hits the fan.
Of course.
So yeah. So we'll see the second half of the banquet next volume. But yeah, that's the Witcher. I was not expecting to get to get into that as much as I did.
Oh, well, I'm looking
Um,
forward to the video though, at least.
yeah. The one that I'm like really working on is I just wanted to do like a what are PlayStation Studios like? What's every PlayStation Studio working on? So that's the video that I'm currently working on. Should be fun. It is fun. I'm enjoying being on it. So that should be up like relatively soon. Probably give it about a week, maybe.
Cool. Hopefully,
Um,
PlayStation announces something right after you post that video.
right. Um, But yeah, in terms of TV, I just finished Alice in Borderland. I don't know if you've. I think Walt may have been watching it.
Yeah, I think Walt was watching it. You guys mentioned before, but that was like a long time ago.
Yeah. I really took my sweet time finishing off this second season. But yeah, it's I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like the whole like death game genre, like Squid Game, where it's like all these people competing in these weird games, and like if you lose at the game, you die.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
live action, right? Yeah, yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, it's basically that. This was the final season. Um, it was insane, man. The second to last episode was like legit like red wedding thing, like almost because like literally main characters were being offed like one after another. Like it was a roller coaster, man. Um, but yeah, it was I don't want to get too like spoilery with it, but the way that they explain how everything is happening, why the games are happening and stuff like that, it it felt like a little generic. Like, oh, okay, that's an easy way to explain it. Like, oh, like the kind of like, oh, it was all a dream kind of thing. Um, literally, it kind of was. It was happening inside of this guy's head. But I think the way that they went about explaining it, um, they handled it about as well as they could. So, ultimately, I walked away from that entire show. I think pretty satisfied. Um, so yeah, it was a really cool show. I'm gonna miss it. Now that it's over. Because I mean, I don't know. I don't think they'll do a season 3 because it feels like everything ended off pretty conclusively. But yeah, really enjoyed my time with the show, even if season 2 was a little weird at times. But yeah, I really liked it.
Dope.
Um, Trying to think what other TV show did I watch? I think that's pretty much it for TV that I can remember at least. But yeah, Alice in Borderland. Um, let's see, what else did I see? I watched Asteroid City, Wes Anderson's latest film, in theaters. Not much to say on that. It was just cool to look at. It was I love how his movies are shot, and that's enough for me, man. Really weird indie film, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
really really
I'm always a little hesitant seeing indie films in theaters because they can be really hit or miss, and
yeah.
it feels like they're a more personal experience than like a movie theater experience.
Yeah. My shawty that I went to see it with,
Oh man.
she thought she thought it was pretentious. I'm like, yeah, for sure, but But I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was a cool time.
That's hilarious.
Um,
You took a shot to go see that.
Hey man, we had to go to backup plan B, C, D, E because things were falling through left, right, and center for
Jeez.
that date, man. Um, but
Jeez. Man,
yeah,
she
yeah.
just went to
So,
go get some milkshakes, bro. That's it.
oh man.
Just some milkshake.
But yeah, so that was that. Games. Into games. Let's
Let's
see.
do it, man. Let's talk about this one. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So, randomly, I bought Hotline Miami like a while ago. I don't remember when, maybe like last year. But I just never put too much investment into it. I think I played like through the first three chapters or whatever, and then just kind of dropped it for whatever reason. Um, I was bored after finishing Resident Evil 4 and Wasteland 3. I didn't have much on my dashboard to really play. This Macho, this is how you know I'm really bored, is that when I re-download Dragon Age Inquisition for like the fifth time and try to actually force my way to or force myself to play it. Um, so I did that too, but I re-downloaded Miami as well and actually finished it, played through the whole thing. Um, it's
Nice.
it's really tough. It's a really tough little indie like shoot 'em up. Um, but it was a good time, man. It's the vibes are immaculate. The music is top tier. I love that kind of like synth wave sort of music. It's almost like a puzzle game, man, because it's like you're put into these like little these rooms that I don't know if you've ever played Miami before or even know what it is.
Yeah, I
Um,
played a little bit of the first or a second, maybe the
um,
second. I don't remember, but either way, like I had same thing with you. I played the first couple levels and I was like, okay, I get it, and I dropped it.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's for anyone who doesn't know, it's like you're it's level based and you're put into these little like rooms that are filled with like a bunch of enemies who can basically insta kill you. If you get hit once, you're dead and you have to restart the level. So it's really just you figuring out how to get through each of these like rooms unscathed, but killing all the enemies in a single room, and then you move on to the next level. Um, and you're doing this with your fists, weapons that you pick up on the floor, like bats, like iron pipes, knives, or guns. And all the guns, they don't have a lot of ammo. Aiming can be a little tricky, so you have to be really careful when you do get guns. Um, it's really bloody, really gory. And yeah, and I thought thematically what it was trying to say was pretty interesting about like video games and violence, how people like enjoy those sorts of things. I thought that was really clever. Um,
Okay,
but
that's why I hit a lot of notes for people.
yeah, um, but yeah, it was a really fun time. I'm not gonna play Hotline Miami 2 because I hear that game is like unfairly difficult. So I'm good. You know, I got my fill with that franchise. I was always curious about this franchise. Um, so I'm glad that I got into it. And yeah, so that was Hotline Miami 2. I finally finished a Plague Tale Requiem. Finally knocked that out.
Damn, that thing
Uh,
came out like in October. Holy
when did it
shit.
come out? Um, yeah. So what's weird is that like I was literally on the final chapter for like I don't know maybe since like December of last year. Literally the final chapter, and I I don't know if it was like through the grapevine or thumbnails that I was seeing on YouTube maybe. I got the impression that something truly heartbreaking happened at the ending of this game. So I was like, okay, I want to stream like whatever I do, I want to stream my ending or my reaction to the ending of the game. Or just get it on camera because the vibe that I'm getting is that this ending is really crazy. And for whatever reason, it just like it's funny because like I always saw the game on my shelf. I really wanted to finish it, but like I just couldn't like muster like the energy to get all my area set up for streaming and finally sit down and actually do it.
Yeah, I remember you
So
saying that you wanted to do that.
yeah, so that was kind of the hold up. But yeah, finally did it. streamed my reaction to the ending of A Plague Tale Requiem. Um, I don't think it was like as crazy as I was kind of, after like what 6 months of
Yeah, you hyped
like
yourself up for 6.
exactly. So it didn't meet those expectations, but the ending was still pretty not what I expected. Let's say
Oh man, congratulations, you played yourself.
that. um, but but yeah, just overall, like what a fantastic game A Plague Tale Requiem was. It I don't know. I kind of and I talk about it in the stream a little bit. I feel content if they were to leave things off the way they did. At the same time, you know how media loves to do their little after post credits little scenes, right? You know how they love to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
there was one of those with this one, and it definitely leaves the door open for the possibility of another game. But at the same time, if they were to stop with this second game, I feel like it was a satisfying enough conclusion. So,
Well, rumor is about in the float that third game is being made. So
oh really?
yeah,
I did not know that.
I think it was someone's LinkedIn that said
Oh,
that there like possibly another game in there.
okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but regardless, A Plague Tale Requiem just a fantastic game that just like improved everything from the first game from like just like stealth, making stealth a lot more challenging, but giving you more room to kind of like be able to get through areas without getting noticed. The story and the presentation. And this is like a studio that kind of sits in between that weird spot of like they don't feel double A. They're not triple A, but they exist in this weird spot in between where they're punching far above their weight class, but um they're still considered indie, which is crazy. It's kind of how the first Hellblade felt as well. And I don't know. I try to like support studios like that because I don't know. I think it's really good that they exist. And yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I see their next game being, if they do a three, their next game being like really high budget with tied with a publisher. So
yeah, maybe.
I could definitely see like Microsoft or Sony or not Nintendo, either the big three or even Embracer going up to them and say, hey, we want to fund your next game completely to go all out. So let's increase your team size and your production value, and let's go all in.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Um,
by what you're saying, if it is,
yeah, I
top
think
top.
that'd be cool. I don't know, cause even with this game, they went a lot bigger. For sure. Even just talking about like the length of the game itself, and like it's a much longer game compared to the first one. So like even that, like it feels like they ambition wise they did go bigger for this one. So it's like, man, I don't know if I would want them to go like even bigger than what they did with Requiem. Requiem feels like it's a good size already. So I don't know. We'll see. Um, but I'm excited for whatever they decide to do next, man. They're a really talented studio. Um, so yeah, really excited to see what they do next.
Cool.
Um, and I think that's pretty much it. The big one, the big game.
Yes,
As you
sir.
know,
Yes,
yeah, the big
sir.
one. Has been Final Fantasy X.
What? Say it again. Hold on. My earplug came out. What'd you say?
Uh,
What?
yeah, I've been playing Final Fantasy X.
Yes, sir. Let's go. We indoctrinated them all.
Um,
It worked.
and, and it's not it wasn't me just playing for like an hour or 2 hours and then just kind of dipping my toes and then leaving. No,
Oh no.
I'm 10 hours into it. I'm
Yes,
10 hours
sir.
into it.
Yes, sir. Well,
Um,
as soon as you start asking questions in the beginning, I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. He's done. He's gonna be playing the entire thing.
oh man. Um, yeah. So what? So you're probably wondering what brought this on? What started this?
Yep.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of watching video game retrospectives. Even of games that I have no intention of playing. or games that I haven't played. And I just like randomly found this YouTuber who did retrospectives on not the entire franchise, but I don't know. I would have to double check, but like the first one that I found was his retrospective on 10. Um, I'm actually not sure if he did 10 too, but then he did the entire 13 trilogy. Like did a video close to 2 hour videos on each of the 13 games. And then he did one on 15. I think he did one on 12 as well. But yeah, basically he did a bunch of retrospectives on like sort of most of the Final Fantasy games. He did one on Type 0 as well.
Well, that's a good one too.
Yeah, and so yeah, I was just like I watched like some of the 10 one, and then I watched like all of the 13 trilogy retrospectives. Watched a little bit of 15, and like I don't know, like it made me kind of just like wanna start with 10. So
Good
yeah,
choice. Good
that's what I
choice.
did. I purchased Final Fantasy 10, 10-2 obviously. And yeah, that's what I've been doing pretty much these past like 2 weeks or so. Has been playing Final Fantasy 10 on stream on Twitch. So yeah, I'm sure you got a lot of questions.
I mean, I'm not
So
gonna interview you. Just tell me how you like. What's your take on it so far? How are you enjoying it? Um, I guess we just start with kind of like the basics. Yeah, I guess it will be kind of an interview. We got the time here. So what's your take on it? You're 10 hours in. What's the? Because this is a lot of people's first Final Fantasy game. This is Wall's first Final Fantasy game.
yeah,
People put this in
yeah,
like in their top three or even top one in the entire franchise. So, what's your take on it so far? It's not your
yeah.
first one.
Right. Technically, it's not my first one, but it's still like I've only played a few, so it's still like relatively like it feels like my first one. Um, yeah, I like the cast a lot. I like the characters. The story is really really interesting so far. Um, yeah, it's definitely doing a lot for me. My big hang up on this game is the combat. I don't know if this is like controversial, especially for people who have played the game years after its release.
Okay.
Um but I don't know, there's just like certain quality of life things like I don't understand the purple like little bars next to the characters like little their sprites or their images on the right of the screen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like
That's
I
so.
for the life
You're asking so many questions. I was like, oh man.
no, for the life of me, like I can't like originally I thought it was health, but like
No.
I yeah, so what is it?
I think it's just a meter bar, just not even a meter bar. It's literally just a visualization, like it's a descending order of the turns, right? So I think it's just more of like a visual thing than anything else. It doesn't really mean anything.
Like and it's weird
Because you're
because
like, is
like
that a health bar? And I was like, no.
yeah, I just feel like it would help so much, man. Because like I really so last night I was going up against one of the sin spawn bosses. I forget its name, but it was like it was almost like a scorpion centipede little thing, and it had like arms, like giant like metal arms on its side. So like you had to destroy the arms first, so it wouldn't be able to protect its like center part. And like so the arms were fairly easy to destroy. Um so and then like I have just everyone just wailing on the centerpiece, just like attack after attack after attack. And then like what was really frustrating about that boss is that like I couldn't tell like you know how much damage I was doing to that centerpiece, like how close it was to being destroyed. And then like literally like 2 rounds later, the arms would regenerate, and then like I would have to go and take care of the arms again, and it just like created this like cycle of like I destroy the arms, I focus everyone on that centerpiece, everything that I do is not good enough to destroy that centerpiece, and then the arms regenerate, and it's just like the same thing over and over and over again, and like I don't know like if a health bar would have made that moment like a less frustrating, but like I don't know, it's just like things like that, and I guess also like should I be grinding right now at this point too? Because like that boss fight made me realize like man, like am I just like not it just felt ridiculous that like all of my characters, like I had Alron out there, man, and he's so strong. And I had Lulu using her magic. I had Kimari out there. All three of them, probably my three strongest characters, just like wailing on this centerpiece, and it still wasn't strong enough for to bring down this thing, despite all the damage we were doing. Um, so yeah, man, like I don't know the combat, and then so
Yeah, this
more.
this game doesn't hold your hand, man. It doesn't hold your hand, and I'll say it as is classic in that JRPG sense where you do have to grind. That's where the spear grid comes in because people are like, "Oh, I love the spear grid because it's all the customization parts of it." That's because you can literally just go through the entire thing and just keep leveling up your characters. So
Yeah.
I would say just go back, level up the characters, and go from there. And just maybe going with a different kind of strategy.
Yeah, I think yeah. I'll probably grind a little bit more, but like off stream because I don't want to do it on stream. That's a little kind of like the double edged sword about streaming is like you know you don't want to do those things on stream.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, just grind off stream. That's what most YouTubers do anyway. So
yeah. And then like so back to the combat as well is like I feel like and again, granted I'm only 10 hours in. Um I feel like it hasn't really evolved too much in like interesting ways. Like it feels like after a while it's just kind of been like rinse and repeat, if that makes sense. Like I really haven't in terms of like frustration aside from frustration, I haven't really been like I don't know because I'm trying to compare this to like other JRPGs that I played and like obviously like Persona. It just feels like even like visually, and I'm not trying to hold it like against like a 2001 game or whatever, but like visually there it was always interesting. There was new combat stuff that was like being introduced like every like just like occasionally or at a good cadence, and it feels like just so far like nothing new has really been introduced to make combat feel um interesting 10 hours in. Like I feel like this is a better way to sum up my thoughts is that like I feel like combat it has been the same 10 hours in as it was like 4 hours in, if that makes sense.
I would say you have to keep grinding then, because that's where you get like all the abilities. But again, you're 10 hours in. This is like the conversation that happened like a long time ago as well, where
Mm.
the idea of like, oh, get 10 hours into it, that's when it gets good, kind of thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing here. It's gonna be very much rinse and repeat for the first couple hours or first like handful of hours because it's introducing the story, the world, and everything as you've been experiencing. And then once you get past that, that's when it's gonna start really pushing in the challenge of the combat system and the spear grid system, how you're leveling up your characters, what spells and what how you're shifting them in and out for certain boss fights or even certain sequences. Like all that stuff really matters, especially in like the I would say not even midpoint of the game. But yeah, probably the midpoint of the game where the challenge gets really up there. Final Fantasy X is notorious for having some of the series' hardest bosses, and
Great.
it's some of the most frustrating.
Totally
So,
looking forward to that.
well, it's still doable for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there's like a definitely a handful of frustrating bosses in the game. But it's also you can also just completely work the system too. Like I didn't have a huge problem with it. There's probably like one or two bosses where I had to look. I was like, all right, how do I do this?
Right.
So, but yeah, it's not gonna hold your hand. So you really got to go in with it's definitely like a classic JRPG from the early 2000s, and it's tough. Like you said, it's tough comparing it to games like newer this generation,
Right,
like
right.
Persona 5. You really can't do that because then
Yeah.
every like past game is gonna look like it's stuck there. You know,
Right, for sure. Um,
Persona
yeah,
5 is an anomaly. It really is.
yeah, yeah. And like, and that's like, and to be fair, like that's an issue that I had, like Pokemon games as well. Like the combat doesn't really, aside from like you getting like new abilities, obviously, but like it doesn't really change all too much. You know, from when you're just starting out to like 20 hours in or whatever,
Yeah.
you're basically kind of doing just like the same thing um, throughout throughout those entire games. So like, I don't know if it's just like a JRPG thing in general that newer games have been better about, but yeah, it's definitely something that's kind of been
No, they definitely,
irking
it's
me.
definitely been better for newer games. Like they just they know how to pace out like certain combat system now, and that even ties in with Final Fantasy 16 as well. But from past ones, yeah, it's mostly build this great foundation of a combat system and then carry it out throughout the rest of the game. And that's really kind of how it's always been for like past those games, even for Final Fantasy X. But like I said, you have the spear grid systems where you unlock more spells. So like the tie and hook there is that you get it, you have to unlock more stuff for your characters. So
Right, right. Um, yeah. Blitzball sucks. Um,
yep, welcome to the club. Everybody hates Blitzball.
it's just like
You were so
I,
excited too. It's like I got my team. We're gonna win. I was like, oh, just wait till he
I
finds out.
was, yeah. It's just like it just doesn't make sense, man. You know, it should be like it should be like, and no like no pun intended with the sports analogy I'm about to make, but like it should be a layup, man. Like the premise is so cool, and
That's
like
why people want a remake for the game.
it's just like, again, the premise is just so cool, like just a sports mini game, similar to soccer, but it just feels like they overcomplicate it,
Yeah, yeah.
um
That's also a vice of past JRPGs for sure. Overcomplicating very simple minigames.
yeah, yeah. um but yeah, I'm glad that seems to be like the consensus, because yeah, I was like, yeah, I was so excited for it, and then yeah.
That's why you're a rare breed if you decide to platinum Final Fantasy X.
Oh
Because
god.
not only do you have to dodge 300 lightning bolts in a row to get
Mhm.
Lulu's special ultimate weapon, you have to win a chokehold race within a very specific time that a lot of people hate. I think that's for Tidus's weapon, and for Waka, you have to win Blitzball. I think like the tournament or whatever. So people, like I said, if you got the Final Fantasy X, you're a diehard Final Fantasy X fan because that is like torture to go through.
Which I heard that like winning um that specific, like the story match against like the champions or whatever, is like near impossible. It's
Yes,
like
you were so mad.
um
Oh, I'm
yeah.
done.
Like I've heard, like obviously like people have done it, but like that guy that I was watching his retrospective on, he was like, like I have tried like 30 times, and it is like, and he eventually got it, but like he had to do like this very specific like way in order to win, but like he was like, it is nearly impossible to do this.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, in
Um.
terms of like gameplay systems, it's like it's you can tell it has creaky bones, but
Yeah.
when it comes to that music and that story and the characters, man, there's
Yeah,
nothing else like it.
which is what, keeps me going, which is why I play games in general, is more so for characters and story.
Hmm.
The combat is just, I'm viewing it as a way to get to those moments, um,
it's
but
it's a good combat system. It's really fun, but I think, like I said, just invest more in the characters and what they're doing.
yeah,
Especially for Yuna. I mean, it's honestly it's like a Final Fantasy fan's dream to control summons in the
right,
series. So the fact that you have an access through that with Yuna and you get to see some really cool moves with them, it's really cool investing in her tree.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, It's also like funny. It's like the Pokemon thing where like you're walking through like tall grass and then you immediately get like ambushed or you hop into like a battle. And it's just funny to me where it's just like uh Tedious is just like walking around just like a path and then like immediately the screen has like this glass shattering like effect and you jump into a battle and it's just like there's NPCs walking on this same street and like they're not getting attacked, So it's just like that's always funny to me, man. Like,
I just love I'd love the way it feels though. Like him walking feels like you're gliding almost.
yeah, he's
And
weird, man.
it and like his walk is like a mini hop. It's so he's like hopping in between every
It's
stride. It's so
it's
funny.
honestly how I imagine Sora like running around.
No, not even close. Not even close. Oh man, shouts to Sora though. But no, it's that's so funny. It's actually I think now you mentioned the combat though. I think you'll really like 10 too.
Yeah, okay.
It is. It's you are definitely going to be eye rolling at your like the poppy sort of themes around it, but the combat system is very very good. I haven't finished it, but from what I've heard from people that have and have played more of it, it's a lot more. I would say the combat is not as stale.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's a lot more about rotations and fitting each of the characters with like a specific role, and then you can like shift that every time. Which is why I liked Final Fantasy 13 a lot because it's the same. It's almost the same thing with the paradigm shift system, where one character could be many things if when you invest in them,
Right.
and you can switch that in between fights. So I think you'll like that a lot more.
Yeah, and story wise, I'm really digging it. Um,
Cool.
I mentioned it in an earlier stream that like it's really tough to like handle exposition in like anything, but like this game does it really well and it works really well here because it's like Tidus is new to this world, so it makes absolute sense for the exposition to happen whenever he's like asking questions because like he generally doesn't know. So it's like we're kind of like in the same boat with him. It's like that interesting thing of like both the player and the character you're controlling, like both of your interests are like aligned in that same sense where it's like we have these exact same questions that Tedious would have as well. So yeah, I think the way that they handled that works like really. It makes sense. It works really really well for sure.
Yeah, like the chocobo scene, right?
Oh man, maybe start on that, man. That was awful.
You felt so bad. You're like, not the chocobo.
I mean, it's literally. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's literally chocobo slavery, man. Like it's messed up. It's so messed up.
Oh man,
Um,
they'll be fine. It's okay.
yeah, well, apparently not, because when Sin attacked in the mission that I did last night, man, there were so many chocobo that got killed. The goddamn chocobo knights? Are you kidding me? They got chocobo knights.
That's how it be,
Chocobo
man.
armor. God damn.
Well, who's your favorite character so far?
Probably Waka, dude. Waka's awesome. He's cool.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Yeah, yeah. He sounds weird, but like he's a total bro, man. He looks
Yeah.
out for you. So
Yeah, no,
he's
he's awesome. I love him.
yeah,
Oh.
he's cool.
Yeah, he's cool, and you're gonna get more into it. But yeah, I mean, I think that the 'cause you said it before that the entire cast is really great.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing too, which is like incredibly hard to do with these games. Is that like I don't have a character that like I don't like, which it's hard to do.
Good, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're gonna find that one, and it's later in the story, but not in the
Yeah.
main cast, but one of the other
Oh, okay.
characters. So,
Cool, cool, cool.
but yeah, I'm excited for you to keep playing, Duck. It's a it's such a great game, man. And the thing about it is like it's such a Final Fantasy game. The way it sets everything up and how it like leads into the bigger thing. Um, so I'm interested to see what your take on it is and what you think about it because it goes places, but it's very fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. What about you, man? What have you been up to?
Quite a bit. I mean, when I went to Florida, I ended up playing a little bit more Tears of the Kingdom. I did a couple of side stuff there, and then I mostly played Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm, or wasn't one? Yeah, I think Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line. So I finished like all near 500 songs in that thing. Um,
Jesus.
yeah, thanks to those plane rides and to those dull moments, waiting for Uber rides and stuff like that. But we got that done. And then when I came, and it was mostly just been Final Fantasy 16 and watching some movies. So a bit in the movie side. Went to go see Insidious: The Red Door, and
Okay.
I think it's like the fourth or fifth movie from the Insidious stuff, and it was good. It wasn't bad. I think Insidious it's a good horror series. It's mostly on the jump scares, and the one thing the series does really well, actually, in terms of jump scares, is like enabling that fight or flight inside of you,
Uh-huh.
because a lot of their jump scares are things that just running towards you. Um,
Yeah.
so this one had a couple of times for me, or I just had some jump scares where I just like immediately just kind of like jumped in my seat because something was like running at the screen or something like that. But they really lost the essence of what made this series truly creepy, because they replaced it with bigger visual scares like monsters and demons and stuff like that. Uh,
Oh, gotcha.
One of the things I made in Cities of like 1 and 2 super scary is the woman in black and the mother, and which by the way is played by Daniel Pasuti from God of War Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, I heard, yeah.
Yeah, she was, her performance was just like so menacing and incredible. I'll never forget seeing that in theaters. And they really lost it 'cause I didn't get that sense at all within this movie. Besides a couple of really creepy scenes, they had some really good moments, but overall, I think they kind of lost that super creepy essence. But they kept the nice part of the series that I really like, which is like this is a family centered movie. So a lot of stuff is based on a father and son kind of figure, which is really nice. So overall, it's pretty good. But I have a couple more movies lined up to go see, including Oppenheimer and Mission Impossible. So I'm excited to see those. Um, what else have we been watching? And, I mean, in terms of TV show, it's mostly just been trashy TV. So me and Sam have been watching $1 Million Listings New York and Too Hot to Handle season 5.
Whoa,
So
season 5.
season 5, man, season
What?
5. Yeah, do you watch
Okay,
it?
alright. No, well, I mean, I remember watching it with an ex, like season 1 with an ex, like, but that
Okay,
that was like, God, like maybe in 2019, maybe.
maybe.
It was definitely no, actually, I think it was during the pandemic. Actually, I don't know. It feels like it was fairly recently, but yeah, that's so crazy. I didn't know they got goddamn 5 seasons, bro.
So you watch season 1. That one is
Yeah.
the worst, I would say.
Okay.
That's the one where they try to imitate how past VH1 MTV shows were for trashy reality TV. Seasons 2 and now even 5 are goated. They have a great cast of people that are just, and they have different archetypes for each character, for each cast as well. So you have the one that's looking out for everybody, see who's doing what, make sure no one's making out or anything like that, and then you have the other ones that are doing horrible, and then you have the couples that are kind of set up. So season 5 already is kicking off to an amazing start. It's the best trash TV since Flavor of Love.
Oh
Um,
man.
Next, what was it called? Not Room Swapping, but it was like an MTV show or VH1 where what was it? I think like 1 or 3 girls, something like that, or 1 or 3 boys went to like their crush's room, and they'll go around the room to see like what they can learn about them as personality wise, something like that. I forgot what it was, but man, what a trashy TV show it was! It was so interesting to watch, like, and just laugh at all the stuff that people find in like in people's rooms. But this one is just so fun, man. Me and Sammy just have a ball watching. We literally just got Chipotle, got some snacks and some ice cream, just start watching and start binging the first 4 episodes. Um, and it's a great show. If you haven't, I'll say watch it with your shoddy, watch it, just in whatever, man. It's so cool and so much fun. And I think you'll like the people too. They're like has some great twists and turns, and yeah, so it's a very fun show. Um, And yeah, I think that's. I mean, I talked about getting more into card games, but nothing really too much kind of get on that front since we haven't really done much. We've mostly been opening packs, and I've been learning more about the Lord of the Rings living card game, which is more of like a story centered card game where you get to build your own deck, or you get to make one from the guided decks in the rule book, and you just go throughout an entire campaign. So you have cards actually say like what you need to do, how you need to set up, and you kind of just go through it with your characters. And apparently it's very hard. I haven't tried it yet, but I made my deck and I got all the scenarios set up, so I'm ready to go. I'll probably do that today. But yeah, I'm looking forward to just doing that and playing more of that stuff. I've been getting really way more into card games lately, so I've been kind of just buying up sleeves and wasting my money and that kind of stuff, just to make sure they're all protected and good to go. I gotta find out what to do about the villainous stuff, man, because me and Sammy play that all the time, and I want them. I want those cards to last because last thing I had that didn't was the Uno deck. I played that a ton with my grandmother and my cousins, and we destroyed those cards. So I want to make sure that these cards are reserved for that. Whenever me and Sammy have a family, we can play villains. I have to worry about my little snot nosed kids rubbing all their boogers all over the cards and shit. Um, so yeah, we've been doing that. But the main thing has been Final Fantasy 16. This game I'm playing nonstop, literally every day from when I get back home from work throughout the weekend, since it came out. And I finally finished it last night, literally like around midnight, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and got the end credits. And now I have post game depression.
It won't last long, man. We got Bonus Day 3 on the horizon, man. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, I know. Actually, it's 2 weeks for me. I'm gonna get on PC, baby.
Oh
And
man.
I'll, you know, I'll get started. So me and Walker be talking about it while you just sit there. And
I don't want to hear it, man.
we're not having a podcast at all until September. Um,
Dude.
but no, man, it's yeah. I just told my friend Sabi, who I interviewed here on the DualShock channel, about the game, and yeah, I have post game depression now, man. This game is it's cracking my top three Final Fantasy games of all time. Um, I top five. I want to say top three just because I want to get more of my thoughts in line. So honestly, I wasn't going to talk that much about it this podcast. Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I have stuff I can say. I mean, what else are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
So, for Final Fantasy 16, this is a Final Fantasy game, first of all, and I just have to say I think it's one of the best produced Final Fantasy games since mainline since 10. I'm gonna say.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a hot minute, man. And we had some great Final Fantasy games that came in and out from there, and I still love the ones that people love to hate, which is like 13, sometimes 15. Obviously 14 is like a bedrock of my gaming persona now. I That's been duly noted across the podcast, but Final Fantasy 7 Remake's a one that I've held to the tip top of like this is top quality, not just Final Fantasy, but top gaming overall. And I still stand by that. I think Final Fantasy 16 stands just a little bit under that, but that could be because of the fact of like a I have nostalgia factor for Final Fantasy 7. The fact that Final Fantasy 7 Remake is not essentially complete, right? Because the entire story still hasn't wrapped up, but overall, I think it's just as a game, Final Fantasy 7 Remake is it's a tighter experience. Um, it's I feel like the writing is better in some cases, for at least character writing. In some cases for Final Fantasy 7 Remake, it just everything just feels like Square Enix is like the absolute most top of their game, and Final Fantasy 16 just sits right under that. And that's not saying as a bad thing, because I think I said before, Final Fantasy 16 is like one of the best produced games from Square Enix in a long time. Um, but overall, yeah, it does have like some of its cons and some of its benefits. So I guess I go over just like kind of the cons I've had with the game since really just finishing it. Again, I just finished it last night. I want to gather more of my thoughts before, but I was kind of just list through like a little bit of what I have in my head right now, and that's I know there's some conversation about like Final 16 not having elemental weaknesses, how weird that is. And now that I played through the entire game, I can see why they left it out. And that's because the icon system in the game, which is the overall combat system, is switching between different icons. Um, all of them have their own elements, but the thing is, the what this combat system is really trying to do is give the player a lot of more choice and freedom when it comes to what they want in their loadouts. Because once you start getting the icon tree, which is the ability tree where you're able to unlock different abilities from every icon, you can master them. And once you master them, you can put them into an icon slot that wouldn't be there before. So instead of Ifrit having all, or Phoenix having all Phoenix abilities, or Ramu having all Ramu abilities, you can have a Ramu set, but you can have a power from Titan or a power from Ifrit or something like that. So it allows you to mix and match, and it's really cool because right when I was getting towards the end of the game and fighting off more of the higher rank bosses that you get to fight, I was finding different combos and abilities and just mixing up strategies that just made it so much fun while adhering to my own playstyle. So I love using Phoenix's dash ability, which is something you get from the right beginning of the game, because it allows you to get up close and personal with people, and that's what I like to do. So I kept that as my main, but I used Titan, which he has a block ability that he also, once you do a perfect block, you're able to do 3 counter hits that do insane damage to the stagger bar. So I love going up close, and then once I see an enemy winding for attack, I'll switch over to Titan, then I'll do a perfect parry block, and then I'll switch over to Shiva, who's my other, like the third icon in my set, and then if I see another attack incoming from them, then I'll dash forward, and what she does is that she's able to freeze everything around her. So I get to get more hits in and more damage and do more to the stagger bar. So like this combat system is just so good, and I can see why I didn't have elemental weaknesses, because imagine having like a really cool loadout and really cool stuff that you want to use, but you're being hampered because of a story boss or whatever the case may be. It has its pros and cons for that, right? Everyone can have like their own say on it, but personally I can see why I left elemental weaknesses out. I do not know why they left out status effects though.
Okay.
And that's a big thing because status effects is even in Final Fantasy VII Remake, which for that combat system works really well, but for this one it could have done the same thing. When an enemy is casting like poison or something along those lines, it really, what it does is have Clive need to kneel to the ground and kind of just stay there for a couple seconds that the enemy wails on you, and that's really all stats effects do. So there's not much to it, but I think there could have done a little bit more if they did have a poison effect, or well, they do have a poison effect, but if they had like stone or death gaze or something like along, or even burning, right, or something like that that can negatively affect Clive for you to readjust your game plan.
Oh wow, they don't have that.
They don't have any of that,
Wow.
which is weird, which is really weird. Like I say, I feel like it could have worked because it worked for Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, not to say that these are the same games, but regardless, I think that's something that was left out that could have been thrown in there. But yeah, so no status effect was a little weird. The other thing, the complaint that I've had about the game, that I've had since really from the first like handful of hours I played it when we first talked about it, was that it's very, very simplified, almost oversimplified. Where I feel like Final Seven, again, I'm gonna compare it to Final Seven, because to me that's like the tip top game in this entire franchise for me, where you had the materia system and you had some basic upgrading for Final Fantasy 7 Remake, nothing too crazy, but what made it not feel as simple or as stale was the fact that you're going between different characters because you're able to play as different characters. And Final Fantasy 16, you're only playing as Clive. So you're buying, you're upgrading, you're crafting for Clive, and it gets very basic very fast, and nothing really changes from there. So you get a whole bunch of materials throughout the game, Soul, like a lot,
Yeah.
and you barely
Oh,
do
it's
anything
just
with
like
it.
Is it just like crafting materials?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's there's just crafting materials that you get here and there, and it's you don't really do much with it. It's you go back to the blacksmith, you go back to the trader, you get your supplies and your materials, you get your potions, you get your elixir, which by the way doesn't like unlock into like 20 hours or more into the game, which is again weird for not having an elixir that long. But you go to the blacksmith, you see what's on board, you see, all right, I can craft this, I can upgrade this, and that happened maybe at maybe 10, 15 times in my entire like 60, 70 hour playthrough. So
wow.
when it comes to just upgrading stuff and the weapon system and really just the RPG factors of the game, it's very simplified. Like you can tell they made this strictly for people that are going to their first Final Fantasy game. But I guarantee you, if their next one is 10 right after that, they're gonna be so overwhelmed because they're just not gonna know what to do with all the RPG systems. Like,
Right, right.
well, in this one is very like Clive levels up. All he does is upgrade his weapons and armor, and he equips his accessories I was fumbling through every now and then, and that's about it. You don't really get to change the sword. Well, you do change the sword, but you just equip different ones. There's not much else to that, really. So, a lot of systems are just very simplified. I can see people kind of going to like, yeah, it feels hollow. I understand that criticism for people that play more RPG games because it is pretty bare bones in that sense. But what it makes up for it is everything else. It is the combat system. It is the story and the characters and the lore. Final Fantasy 16 Soul is one of my favorite casts in the entire franchise now, and
Interesting.
that includes everybody from Gav, who was the scout that Clive and Sid recruited early on or met early on. That includes Jill, obviously. I think she's one of the best female Final Fantasy protagonists in the entire series, and that's high up there because you have Yuna, you have Garnet, you have Tifa and Aerith, right? But Jill is up there, man. She's such a
There you
great
go, Lightning.
character. Lightning is good too.
Okay.
I didn't play 13.3, so I want to reserve because I know that one specifically about her.
Oh, okay, okay.
But Lightning is a good one too. Lightning's dope.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
you like Lightning, huh? Oh man, you found a
No,
favorite.
because Easy Allies they have they have I don't know if they still do, but like in their old office when they were working out of their owner's garage, they had a cardboard cutout of Lightning in the back of the studio. They would always be like, praise our queen.
She's dope. She's but like there's more to her in 13 I need to learn about though because I heard like that's like where everyone really loved Lightning. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Clive is just an amazing protagonist. I think he's one of the best, if not the best protagonist in the Final Fantasy
Star,
franchise.
man.
What happened?
I said Ben Star.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude. Um, fuck, man. I cried so much from scenes where he was just going all out, and there's so many things I want to talk about, but I can't because of spoilers. But from last night, it was just his performance is just otherworldly, man. Like I was feeling every line he was saying and emoting and feeling and crying and laughing. Like he's just such a great protagonist. And like I would say, yeah, he's absolutely the best protagonist in the Final Fantasy game, hands down.
Wow.
And that's from coming. I know it's kind of wild. So I say that came out of my mouth. I'm like, whoa, but Cloud and Zack. No, Clive really is one of the best, if not the best. You go on such a journey with him, and from when I saw the first couple of trailers, I held off on watching the rest of them. But from watching the first couple, I thought it was really just going to be about a revenge story, and it turns into something so much more. And that's where I saw before I left Twitter permanently. That's where I saw some people saying like the last half of the game gets really muddy with the story because it turns Final Fantasy, it turns from Game of Thrones into Final Fantasy, and people have their own opinions about that. But I I absolutely loved it, dude. It absolutely ascended the it ascended the story and the lore into a place that I was expecting for a Final Fantasy game, and it ended off being very satisfying near the end, like very satisfying. You just have your characters that are just well rounded and lovable and fun, and it's just what a journey it was just to like go from what Clive's been through from his traumatic moments at the beginning of the game to where he is now at the end of the game. It, like, again, just what a journey, including every character. And I can't go into a couple because of spoiler factors, but some characters just absolutely made like an impression on me. I'm just like, this is Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Like this love, this camaraderie, this cast of characters and huge fleshed out story and lore. Like this is Final Fantasy, man, and you feel it in every breath of the game. So absolutely incredible stuff they did there. This is one of my favorite stories, and I always had the fantasy too of the fact that you get to play as summons in Final Fantasy game. And 10 was very close to that because you are actually controlling the summons.
Right.
Here, you are the summon, so it is insane the fact that we get to play as Ifrit and go against Bahamut, go against freaking Garuda and Titan in the most crazy ways. And what better team to make a boss fight centric game than the Final Fantasy 14 team?
Yeah.
Hands down, they have made some of the best boss fights in the entire series from 14, and that includes the expansions, like everything. They've just absolutely blown my mind. Sammy has seen me in this computer chair playing Final Fantasy 14, going crazy over these 14 bosses, and she saw the exact same thing for 16 because I was crying, I was getting hyped, I was jumping up in my chair for some of the most craziest boss fights I've ever played. That makes God of War 3 look like a children's play toy.
Oh man.
No cap, dog. No
Yeah,
cap.
I've seen some clips. Yeah, they look pretty insane.
It's nuts. And the thing is, like, the wow factor is gonna be lost probably like that second playthrough because of like you're just pressing R1 or you're pressing box or whatever. But I don't know, man. It's just it's like they really went all out with the cinematic parts of it that I love from 14 because 14 what they eventually graduated from just being mechanic heavy to having mechanics but also being very cinematic. And 16 is just that times 1,000 where you're just doing absolutely incredible stuff. And it's hard to pick a favorite because Garuda was very fun. And speaking of Garuda, Benedicta, one of the most underrated characters in the entire game. I wish she got more of spotlight throughout the entire thing because I would love to learn more about her. Um, and I just lost my train of thought. But but I mean, all the bosses are just insane. And again, man, the bottom one was just I cried. It was so beautiful. It was so gorgeous. And then the final boss fight did not disappoint. The thing is, I thought it was going to because they had a couple of pit stop moments. I'm like, oh, that can't be it. I don't feel fulfilled from that. And then they went to the next thing, and then the next thing, and then it went beyond that. And I was crying my eyes out playing this final boss fight. It was just absolutely insane. Just the thematic moments, the line delivery from Ben Starr, the music was just enveloping me, and I was thinking about it so much right before I was heading to bed, and then when I woke up, I was still thinking about it. It's so damn good with these boss fights and just the story and where everything left off. I'm so happy this thing exists. I'm so happy this is a Final Fantasy game. There's so many moments where I was like, I can't believe this is a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's
Yeah, that's a really awesome just like take that like it feels like like almost if you were to show your younger self this game like I don't know 10, 15 years ago or whatever,
mm,
and you would be able to tell your that younger version of yourself like this is what Final Fantasy will be in the future. Like I don't know that's what it feels like, and
yeah.
I don't know that's really cool.
It's insane. And like Yeah, 2006 Macho, after playing Kingdom Hearts 2 and Final Fantasy and getting to Final Fantasy after that, was like, I want a Final Fantasy game like Kingdom Hearts 2. I want that combat system. I want the grandiose story. I want the lovable characters, right? And we got that in 16. I got my dream game, so, and it's Final Fantasy 16, and it just blows my mind that this thing was actually made. And yeah, it's funny you say that because I feel like this game is in a weird time capsule where it was made right after I played Kingdom Hearts 2 and wasn't released until right now. And that's the good and the bad, right? The bad being like the simplified mechanics. There's not really a lot of mini games in there, which is kind of disappointing. There's not like a really big emphasis on exploring because on just exploring the world because the fact that it's pretty barren when you're just walking around, stuff like that. So that's where it feels like it was made back then. But as far as the production value for right now, it's everything that I've wanted from it and more. So it's absolutely incredible stuff. I think like just like the few negatives that I have with it, the couple of gripes here and there, are just so mitigated by the fact that everything else is so good, and my experience was just amazing from it. Even the side quests, right? I know there's a lot of talk about the side quests being bad or being good. The thing about it is that this is the Final Fantasy 14 team, so this is what I expected from them as far as basic side quests going from point A to B. But what
Yeah.
makes them so good so is the story.
Mm.
They tell a story. Not everything is great, and I will admit, not everything is amazing, and like, I was on the edge of my seat, whatever. But most of them are, and I completed just about all. Like, and the thing is about the game too, that's actually really well paced, is that you have big story events and then side quests right afterwards, and it filters it very nicely where you don't feel like you're doing too much. Right? It's not like the Witcher 3 effect where you open the map, you see a whole bunch of shit on the screen. You know,
Yeah.
this is very much story drip feed of side content, story drip feed of side content, story drip feed of side content, and then once you get to the end, you just get a whole bunch of side stuff. But all of it is tied to the story. All the side content is affected by the story and the world events. You hear NPCs talk about the latest thing that just happened from the story or from characters being offed or whatever the case may be, right? So like this world is living and breathing as you keep playing it. So I'll say this too. This is probably the most engrossed I've been in a Final Fantasy world as far as I can remember. I
Okay.
can't I can't
That's
even
that's that's good to hear because like coming off of just playing Dragon Age Inquisition for like a little bit before I got into FF10 and Hotline Miami.
yeah.
My the thing that just continuously keeps me away from just committing and finishing that game is the world. I could not care less about that world specifically because of like the side quests. It is like is the very definition of like what people always try to like accuse Horizon of being of in the sense of like in this game the open world is like it is constant icons on the map, but it's literally the same activities over and over and over again when you go to new levels. So it's like, hey, there are three rifts that you need to close in this level, go do that. Or there's camps that you need to open up in this level. Okay, now you go to a brand new location, it's those same activities again that you need to go do.
Yeah.
Side quests, it's like hey, my husband died, and his like family ring is worth like a lot of money or whatever. Can you please go get it for me? So it's like literally you talk to that NPC, you go to where the dead body is, you retrieve the ring, you bring it back, end of quest. That game is filled with stuff like that, so it's good to hear that like this game is definitely more interesting than that. It seems like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where it comes to like the quest design and stuff like that. That feels very like, as I said before, like right after it came out. It feels like this game came out right after Kingdom Hearts 2, and then at the same time it didn't, because you do have quest designs that are very basic and similar, and it includes like even Emmy variety as well. Like it feels like this game could have used a lot more enemies or different kinds of enemies to fight. There's definitely a lot, but I feel like it could have used a little bit more to really divvy it up there. But the same thing with side questing. Yeah, it's like you have like your basic stuff like go here, do this, go here, do this, fight this. But there are cool twists and turns here and there, and there's definitely I mentioned a couple before that were that just had me by surprise, even if they were really basic, right? Like here, just go here and see this, or just go here and kill this monster. There's always like a little bit more story nugget to really grab onto that fleshes out the world and the people in it, and to see the repercussions of that and hear that from NPCs or from people in your hideaway. Like it's like all of it feels organic and feels like you are a part of something that's moving, which is really nice. So when it comes to the story and just the world itself, I was just really engrossed in it, and it helps so much too that we had that I can't say it, compendium within the game
Yeah.
where you have like the layout of like who's who, what's what, but you also have Vivian, who is your not your chronological person in the game. She's more of like the what's happening kind of person. She's like what's happening in today's world events, so to speak. So you have like a layout and a grid that she makes where she say who this character tied to this character, or this is happening in the story, and you have like little like displays of how that looks. So you're constantly being engaged in the game of what's happening around the world, and it's really cool to see that. On top of getting like this really nice glossary of like what's a crystal bearer, or bearer more or less, not a crystal bearer, or what's an icon, or who's this character, what's the Duchy of Rosaire, like stuff like that. Like all that is enough in the game to where like you understand this world, you understand the characters, the relationships with one another. Once you get invested, it's hard to let go, which is why like the last couple hours was so solid, where you just had side quests for each character that you come across, and it's what a story, what a freaking story, what the connections that Clive made, and like I didn't think where he was in the beginning of the story is where he will end up now, and it's so beautiful, and I love it what they do with it, especially just the very end of it. It's just so good. um I think that's really it. I mean, I think I talked about just about everything besides the one thing, so that makes this one of the best Final Fantasy games:
Oh.
the music.
Yeah.
The goddamn music. This is above 10, above 7 remake, above 14. Final Fantasy 16 has the best soundtrack in the entire series.
Yeah.
Period.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Just the feelings you get from the music. Again, Soken, he says right before the game launch that I want players to feel like I'm in their PlayStation 5 making the music as they're playing the game. And I understand why he said that, because it really does feel like that. Like they earned their chops from 14 of music placement and sound mixing and how that all plays into the player experience. They just went balls to the wall in 14, dude. L
Yeah.
People know it's L3 and R3. Press to accept the truth. Like because this game does it, man. It's like, oh man, just like the moments that they do, it's stuff I'll never forget, and a lot of a lot of like my memories from Final Fantasy stem from like the old days, and especially with 7 remake, of just amazing music keyed moments, right? Hearing or seeing Sephiroth and hearing his theme song just pop in is a moment you'll never forget because it's so iconic. And then you have so many of those moments in Final Fantasy 16, whether it be the final boss fight, whether you have be press L3 and R3 to accept the truth. Man, just so much stuff, and even like the smaller moments too between characters, are very romantic moments between characters. The music just really hitting such a note there. They do such a great job with everything, man. Just the music in general. story, dialogue, characters, like everything's just so tip top in this game. The only game to succeed it from or above it is Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I think that's also because of nostalgia factor and a couple other gameplay mechanics. But other than that, 16 is a rock star, man. It is a rock star.
Nice. That's awesome to hear that it lived up to the very high expectations that I think everyone had. So that's awesome, man. I'm happy for you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know the I really don't know like the zeitgeist around it right now, and the fact that it sold 3 million because I've been off Twitter since vacation.
Hmm.
Not going back. I'm very happy where I am right now. But yeah, from what I can see from friends and people streaming it and stuff like that, it seems like people are very happy with it. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to talk about what the next Final Fantasy game is going to be as well, because I feel like it's up in the air. I don't know if it's going to be like this one. I don't know if it's going to be different, and that's what makes it so exciting to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the next thing is going to be, and then a lot of people kind of have problems with that. Like, well, it doesn't have a sense of identity. Like, you don't know really what makes this a Final Fantasy game, and I do. I really do. To me, it's not about an identity that you can see. It's something you can feel, and that's called the spirit of Final Fantasy. You feel that in this game,
Yeah.
and I felt that with 10, 7. Like when you play a Final Fantasy game, you feel you know what it is, and that's what I felt with 16. So, bar none, yeah. This I'm really excited to see where they go, to see how they carry that torch from the next to the next game. At the same time, I'd love to see DLC for this game. I feel like we can definitely get some more story and feedback from Benedicta, from Sid, from even Kupka, Hugo Kupka. Yeah, there's the characters are Dion too. Like, oh my god, Dion, freaking Dion, such an amazing character. There's so many like the entire. It's like you said before with 10, where like there's not a character you don't like or that you don't
Yeah.
dislike rather. The same thing with 16. There wasn't a character in this cast that I just like roll my eyes at or groaned at or rolled my eyes at. Like, there's not a character here. I want to see more for every character in this game, whether it be like a backstory DLC or maybe like an epilogue or something, whatever, or even like a side story for them. I want it because I love all these characters. So very strong cast.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, man. So I can't wait to get into it soon. Hopefully.
Yeah,
We'll see.
we'll see. You said about Final 7 remake too, so we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, man. Let's jump into this. Our really our only topic for the show, and then we can get out of here.
Yeah, man.
Is PlayStation's live service push. I feel like we haven't like really had like a just like a talk about it. Obviously we've we'll have like certain topics that kind of like brush on the overall topic, but like just in terms of like us actually like sitting down and just like talking about like how we feel about this in general, I feel like we haven't really done. Um, so recently, Sony, or I think it was like Nikkei, revealed that Sony's like upping their investment in R&D and research, um, and it looks like it's being tied to for their live service push, um, which is like understandable. Like yes, like spend the money that you need to spend in order to do the proper amount of research to ensure that these games come out uh right, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I mean, we've known that this has sort of been the plan for a while. They have, I think they only said that they have something like 12 live service games that they plan to have released by fiscal year 26. Um, that's a lot.
Which is crazy. Yeah, it's man, this is gonna be weird.
But also like that encompasses games like LOB, Twisted Metal,
Yeah,
you know, things like that. It's not all gonna be like, Fortnite games. And then also like there's been some cancellations, right? There was, I mean, we don't know what's going on with Deviation Games, right? It's like, is that number like less now than it was when they originally announced that number? Um, but yeah, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on that specifically, especially coming off of the PlayStation Showcase where what, three of the four PlayStation Studios games that we saw there were live service. This obviously makes a ton of people uneasy. Um, and yeah, I bring this up not only because this was recently in the news, but also because like I'm working on this video, going through each of the PlayStation Studios and seeing what they're working on. So yeah, wanted to get your thoughts on this. How are you feeling about this?
Overall, I mean, it's hard to tell because we don't. There's nothing really to grab onto other than the fact that the couple of
Yeah.
announcements from Showcase. It seems weird, man, because live search is like in a weird pickle where everything is coming and going, and some catch on, others just completely die. Not everything's gonna be a Genshin Impact. Not everything's gonna be a Fortnite, obviously. It's weird where PlayStation's gonna land with this sort of stuff. It feels like what Disney was trying to do with a lot of its mergers and acquisitions of. It feels like they're making all those purchases because they wanted a bedrock that the company didn't want to worry about for the future. They always wanted to keep making money. That's what it feels like with PlayStation. But they're rooting it in creativity and with new teams and hopefully new ideas and fresh ideas that people can like. But it's a weird waiting period. I'll say, it's just I don't know what to really make of it as long as I get the games that I want, you know. Um, and it seems like that's happening anyway. We're getting Spider-Man 2 at the end of this year, and who else we're gonna what else we're gonna be getting for the next year after that? Marathon and Concord maybe.
Concord, yeah.
It's just
Helldivers is this year.
hopefully. Yeah, we're just in a really weird place, and I think right now they're just trying to make the transition, and then we're not gonna see like really have an opinion on all this stuff until PS6 comes out. Feels like.
Yeah, I agree about the weird position. It's like I don't know because there's a certain, for me at least, there's a certain like excitement with being in the unknown. But I feel like that has kind of like come and gone for me. Where now it feels like, especially with the showcase, and we've talked about this, where it's just like that was really the opportunity after years of not knowing what's on the horizon for PlayStation. That showcase was the opportunity to kind of like show us what is, to have that E3 2016 moment where it's like, okay, here's God of War, here's Days Gone, here's The Last Guardian, Horizon, Detroit, Death Stranding, Spider-Man. Essentially, almost without, aside from Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, essentially showing us what the rest of that generation was going to look like. And to kind of be in this weird phase where even with a showcase behind us, we still I still feel like I have more questions than answers. I still don't know what the future is going to look like, which is bizarre. Um,
Yeah, it's weird, man. I don't know what to really make of it honestly at this point, um, because it feels so uncertain. We're getting more Horizon stuff for sure. Like we know like some stuff that we're going to get. We just haven't seen anything from it. Whether it's and we haven't really decided whether we're going to be excited about it or not because I haven't seen anything.
yeah,
So
and that's the thing too, is that like while I'm doing this video, like I understand why people are concerned, but at the same time, it's like they're not abandoning the single player stuff. Like while I'm doing my research for this video, like I'm finding like a bunch of like interesting things about like what these teams are working on and whatnot. My thing is that like they did absolute, like, that PlayStation Showcase was the opportunity to quell those fears, and they did absolutely nothing to prove to people that like, hey, that we're not only just doing live service games. Like, no, of course we have big single player projects that we are known for. We are still doing that, but they did nothing at that showcase to prove that to people. Um, so the perception continues that no, that PlayStation is all in for live service and nothing else. Even though we know that Corey is making a new IP and Neil has something that he's working on, and Housemark is working on a new IP, and Sucker Punch is probably working on Ghost of Tsushima 2, or Team Asobi is working on a brand new PS5 game, right? Like we know all these things, but they didn't use, for whatever reason, they didn't use that showcase to prove that to the people who are still doubtful of that, right?
Yeah, there's just a lot of factors going into this. The budgeting, right? I mean, I'm trying to avoid the FTC talk because it's just so annoying.
Yeah.
But we learned just from that nugget, we learned nugget information from there that Last of Us 2 was like, what, 200 million or something like that?
220, and then Horizon was 212.
Yeah. So it really just could be a thing where we're going to get less games from them because of these bigger budgets, because they're known for what they're known for, which is the bigger AAA budget games that are worth your $70. And it feels like now that information's coming, now this kind of information is coming to light, we can see why these games take so long, because they're putting so much money into it, and why live service is also such a focus, and why the TV stuff is always such a focus too, with like the Twisted Metal show and Last of Us getting a whole bunch of Emmy nominations, stuff like that. All that stuff really funnels back into them making the games that they're known for, but we're gonna get a lot less of that. So these announcements are going to be very sparse, and it feels like with gaming, the gaming industry and gaming development being so up in the air and so unpredictable, it feels like that we're in this kind of waiting period that's going to prolong itself because PlayStation can do it. You know, they're the market leader. So
Yeah, yeah.
like you're not going to sell your PS5,
Right, right.
you know.
Because like I do like because we like those teams and we know what those teams can do. So it's
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna miss out on the next, Santa Monica, Sucker Punch, Insomniac, Gorilla, whatever, et cetera, game. Blue Point, Housemark. Like I can go down the line. Um,
Yeah.
I also think that like the issue also is that like we I think we understand, even though it sucked that we didn't get a showcase last year. I think we generally can understand that the first party teams were just not ready to show anything. Um, I think that makes even more sense given this showcase because it turns out the first parties were still not ready to show anything. Um,
Especially Last of Us, which was so upsetting.
but
Still
like
mad about that.
I also think like the problem is that a lot of these teams are working on new IPs. And new IPs, as we know, just take longer to develop.
Yep.
In my video, I brought up Horizon. They started Horizon Zero Dawn in 2011. 2011.
Yeah.
And the game came out in 2017.
Yeah.
6 years.
And Naughty
We
Dog
don't
just
know
takes forever to get their games together.
in general,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. They take forever.
Sucker Punch. We don't know when they started Ghost of Tsushima, but Second Son released in 2014, and then Tsushima came out in 2020. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like, again, new IP. That's why I bring it up. But like, yeah, so new IPs just in general will take longer to develop than like sequels, and most of these teams are working on new IPs, right? Like London is, even though their game is a multiplayer game, that's a brand new IP. Ben Studio working, they're not working on Days Gone. I hate to break it to the 5 Days Gone fans, uh, but they're working on a new IP. Corey's Game is a new IP. Housemark, they're working on a new IP. Blue Point, they say original content. I take it to mean a new IP. Jury's still out with that, but yeah, I think they're working on a brand new IP. Um, we can go down the line with all these teams that like a lot of them are working on brand new IPs. So like I think that plays a factor into why it's taking them a little bit longer. And why we haven't seen their projects. Um,
Yeah. I think some are working on PSVR 2 titles as well to really push it, but
Possibly. I mean, Meteor Molecule as well, right? Like they just moved on from Dreams and they're working on a brand new project. You would assume is a new IP. Even a team like Fire Sprite, like they have multiple things in the oven. But their big game that I'm really excited for is their horror game, and that's a brand new IP. So it's like
yeah.
the thing that sucks is that like it's just like the kind of like trap that you fall in the game development is that like these things take a really long time, and it's like I don't want it to be like an Xbox situation where, and we've talked about this multiple times, where like they were announcing all these games in 2020 and we're coming to find out that they're not, that they were announced in 2020 and they're realistically 2024, 2025, even
Yeah.
2026 games, you know.
Yeah, because
I
that's
don't.
because you run into that cycle of where's Fable, and then when
Right.
Starfield releases, where's Elder Scrolls 6, where's Fallout 5. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, so you definitely like run into, and PlayStation has been a lot better about that in recent years. It seems like their cadence has been, we announce things and they're out in 2 years. That seems to have been the sweet spot for them during this PS5
I
era.
love that. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
incredible. And Nintendo does that too. They just announced Super Mario RPG, and that's comes out later this year.
Yeah, I like that too. But now it's like, okay, so does that mean Ghost of Tsushima is a 2026 game, right? Like, um, you know,
I mean, I don't think it'll take that long, but again, you never know where they're gonna go with it because there's so many stuff. There's so many ways they can go about with the story, so you never know.
but again, that goes into the 2 year gap that they've kind of been like, that they've been doing things so far in the PS5 cycle, is that like you go through all the first party games that were announced in that 2020 showcase. They were all out, um within 2021, 2022. None of them slipped into 2023. So it's like,
Hmm.
if we don't get another showcase this year, then Tsushima gets announced in 2024, then it's like that game is a 2025, 2026 game, right? So it's like, I don't know, man. Like that's pretty wild.
I'm surprised we
Um,
didn't get an announcement for a Ghost of Tsushima standalone live service game yet.
oh, maybe. I
I
mean,
ca-
then again, like Sucker Punch is like they're one of the smaller Sony studios, so like I feel like that team is definitely like a one project sort of team, you know.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
not like, Insomniac or Gorilla or Naughty Dog where they can work on multiple things at the same time.
Well, hopefully they get like an external studio or something to do that because I feel like it's such a missed opportunity. Unless correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see a cooperative samurai game out there.
Um, I don't, maybe like Naraka Blade Point, whatever the hell that game it is.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, yeah. That's the one I was thinking of, but I haven't played it yet but I know it's like a very fighting game, mechanic heavy and
Oh, okay.
battle royale. Whereas this one will be straight up cooperative multiplayer game
Yeah.
that's samurai based. I haven't seen anything like it, so I feel like that's a missed opportunity they haven't capped on yet. That it's there, the idea is there, and people love it, but they could really go out with it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and it's just like, also like it feels like, not that we've only been hearing kind of like bad news, but like only like live service news, if that makes sense. Like I feel like we've been hearing a lot more of that, and Spider-Man 2 is cool. We're all excited for it. Um, but it's like, man, dude, it just kind of sucks that like we're constantly hearing about live service this, live service that with PlayStation, and then like the only thing that runs counter to that we can point to, like, oh no no no, like PlayStation is still being PlayStation, is like Spider-Man 2. Like that's the only thing that we can kind of like point to, and like I
Yeah,
don't know, man. I I don't know. It kind of sucks, and then to add insult to injury, you have things like the Horizon Zero Dawn remake and the Last of Us Part Two director's cut thing. I don't know
oh
if you heard
yeah, I
about
did see. Yeah, IGN. I saw the article IGN that Gustavo said that you get to see him play the guitar or something like that, or
it. Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know, like these things just kind of like snowball and snowball into like, I don't know, just making me just that exact reaction, just like, ugh, like, literally, like just, I don't know, like I'm not mad or anything like that. I'm not, taking to the Twitter streets and complaining. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to describe, man. It's just, I I just really feel like they did more of that showcase. But again, if they were at a point where they still weren't ready to announce things, then like then I understand, you know. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
um,
I sort of capped out after the showcase. No, actually, no. So I capped out once the news of the Last of Us factions was revealed that they needed more time or whatever. And
yeah,
we had a discussion on this podcast too. That was just I go back to it. It's very funny.
yeah,
Um, but we had a really good discussion. But yeah, that's when I really capped down. Like, all right, I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm just gonna be the Final Fantasy guy. I'm gonna be the Kingdom Hearts guy. Just play these. Mostly just get into Final Fantasy. Mostly get into Square Enix games, and just wait for when PlayStation releases this stuff because that's all I really can do. You know. Um,
yeah. That's kind of where I'm at too. It's just like I'm enjoying life right now. Like I'm
yeah.
I'm, I'm not even like in the like I got on Threads or whatever it's called. And I'm not even like in the gaming community on there. I'm just in the writers community. It's so fun interacting with like other people who are writing and stuff like that.
Oh, that's
That's
cool.
that's what that's what I'm doing. Like
That's cool.
in terms of like like the gaming and stuff like that. Like the gaming community, quote unquote. Like I don't know. I've kind of like taken a break from that as well.
Yeah, I mean that's why I think that's also why it started getting more into movies as well because rather than like focusing hardcore on like PlayStation news because we don't haven't really gotten like a lot and again there's nothing really much to
Exactly.
talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
besides this FTC and what Xbox is doing all the time.
Yeah.
I just mostly just sort of like wanted to like take a break, so that's why we're getting more into movies and really just more into car games too. Just that's what we talked about before. Just having other stuff to do. So besides gaming, we've been finding extra hobbies to do or other hobbies to do and living life, which is nice. But,
Yeah.
but honestly,
For
just
sure.
living off of Twitter has been a blessing, man. Honestly,
Oh, I bet. I bet.
and yeah, I think that having going on vacation, deactivating my account, coming back and seeing all the shit posting from the FTC nonsense to weird hot takes on Final Fantasy 6. I was like, all right, dude, like that's it. I don't need this anymore. So it's been a blessing. That's why I haven't really been seeing a whole bunch of like that kind of vomit conversations online. But so
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't really know what other people are talking about really, other than this, FTC
It's
stuff.
literally
But
just it's literally just the FTC stuff. Um.
no, because I mean that's gonna affect PlayStation even more now, right? Because that thing is like pretty much solid.
And I think that also kind of contributes to like the general mood or like vibe towards PlayStation is like that happening as well. So it's just like
Mm.
you have all these things just kind of like snowballing, just like stacking on top of one another, and that's like creating the mood. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah,
Oh, so it's because of that. All right. So people have the doom and gloom because no more Activision games on
I
PlayStation.
I love maybe this is like crazy, but I love going on Reset Era and just like I guess kind of lurking, just like seeing like what people specifically. I go on the PlayStation Studios thread, and it's literally just like a PlayStation centric just like thread, just like people going on there talking about like the news and stuff like that, and
Uh huh.
link Twitter uh posts or whatever from developers, whatnot. And it's just like people are depressed in there, man. Like they are depressed. Like from the showcase to the FTC stuff to the live service push. Like it is just like it's depressing to be there, man.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's not looking good in there.
That's
But
wild. I can't even. So like, I don't know, man, because it's so weird. Like making, like we love PlayStation. That's why we made this podcast. We love PlayStation. We love talking about the studios, talking about the games, but it's
mhm.
not fully our identities.
Yeah, yeah,
Like some of these people make it out to be, and from when I left Twitter when people made it out to be theirs, or same thing with Xbox or whatever. But it's just weird. It's like it's such a roller coaster. Like, are people exhausted at this point? They just want to do other things.
man. Who knows?
Like, I'm so, like I don't get it, man. You know, I got exhausted for a minute. I'm just like, all right, I'm good, and then I want to go do other stuff. So
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it, man. And like, okay, so to wrap up this conversation, are there any live service games that you are looking forward to? Because like, I know for me, I probably won't be into marathon, but like, I still want to try it out just because like that trailer was really damn cool. So like aesthetically, like I'm hooked, I'm into it. But whether it's something I'll play long term, I don't know. I still want to try it out. Um, Fair games. I've already talked about how much I love the heist genre, so purely based off of that, I want to try it. I would have preferred if it was a heist genre in like the medieval ages, but regardless, I'll still try it out. Um, Concord as well. I like that aesthetic, that synth wavy aesthetic. Even though it's like the worst trailer known to man, I hate trailers like that. But I'll still try it just based off of the vibes alone. I'll try it out. Um, but yeah, I mean, besides that, obviously we know other things like London Studios game that's out there, Helldivers, the Horizon multiplayer game, Factions, obviously. Yeah, so I mean, out of the ones that we know, are you excited for any of them?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm more excited to see like how they operate more than anything, because I'm always willing to get into like a new kind of multiplayer game as long as it has a hook that envelops me or like a style that I want to be a part of. Last of Us was there. Ghost of Tsushima, I want to see if they do something with that. Marathon, like yeah, everything from the last showcase. I was like, okay, that's cool, but I want to see more. So it's really just a factor of how they operate and whether they have a style I can gravitate towards more than anything. So I would say just generally, I want to see what everything looks like, but I'm interested. You know, with my highest ones being Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima, obviously if they do that. But Last of Us, I mean, we'll see, man. I still don't have a lot of hope that things gonna come out at this point, but
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah.
But yeah, and then like, is there? I mean, this can include the live service, but like just in general, like which studio are you like the most excited for in the future?
Live service or single player?
Yeah, like it doesn't matter like whatever they're working on.
Oh, mm, do you have one?
Um, I mean, obviously, I mean, the easy answer is like what Corey is working on.
Yeah,
Just
that's
like
what I was thinking too.
what does a new IP from that guy look like, you know? Um, but also like I'm really I think I might have two answers honestly. Blue Point, I
Oh yeah,
love obviously loved Shadow Colossus and Demon Souls 2020. Um, Again, I'm always and this kind of this kind of goes into like what I was trying to say of like things like the Horizon Zero Dawn remake and The Last of Us Part 2 director's cut where like people are getting the vibe where it's just like PlayStation feels creatively bankrupt where it just feels like it's just like the same thing kind of being regurgitated like over and over and over again. And this is why I feel um like new IP is so important and people always complaining like the sequels that Sony has of like oh it's just more Horizon or oh it just looks like more Spider-Man. I wish we got something new, right? It's just like why these new IPs are so much more intriguing to me. It's like yeah, what does Blue Point who has like some of the best visual like art in the industry like what does something brand new from them look like? um, and then the other one was Fire Sprite, um, specifically with their horror game. Just in the sense of like, again, going back to the thing of like PlayStation, not having much variety in their portfolio. Like a horror game, and I don't know if you saw this because you're not on Twitter. Fire Sprite moved into a brand new office, and in their sort of like blog post talking about it, they're saying that they want to be like amongst the PlayStation studios, like they want to be like a creative like powerhouse, like they want to be up there with like the Naughty Dogs and like the Santa Monicas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, of course, every studio would have that ambition, but like, for them to go out there and say it, like, I don't know, that horror game that they're working on, that narrative horror game, like, I feel like that is exactly in terms of like variety, that is exactly the kind of thing that like I'm looking for. So whatever that game ends up being, like I have my eye on it. I'm really curious to see like what does a AAA PlayStation Studios horror game look like, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, that's really cool to me. Because it feels unlike anything else. Even though, you know, we have The Last of Us, but the horror aspects always kind of takes a back seat with those games, at least in my opinion. But yeah, what does like a horror first game look like from PlayStation Studios? I think that would be really really awesome, and much needed for the portfolio. But yeah, those are my picks. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, I think those are really good ones, honestly. Well, coming to mind now, Insomniac's pedigree. I would love to see what that Wolverine game looks like
Yeah,
as well, because that one's right after Spider-Man 2. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see like kind of how they take their own spin with Wolverine, um, and to see if they're working on another Ratchet and Clank game where we are Rivet and oh, what's her name? The robot.
Kit.
Kit. There you go. I knew it was with a K.
So we know that they have Spider-Man, Wolverine, and they're working on a multiplayer project. Those are the three things that they're working on.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and but we don't know anything about the multiplayer thing aside from that it's multiplayer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, Wolverine's one of the ones I'm looking forward to what they're doing, but yeah, I mean, it would have to be what Santa Monica's working on because anything coming from Corey is going to be something that's going to push the PlayStation brand a little further. It
Yeah,
feels like so. It really feels like Corey and Neil and a couple others are on like this Mount Rushmore of PlayStation Studios that push
yeah,
it that keep pushing it forward, and we're just looking for the next big one, and it feels like Corey is he's gonna be the one to do that.
yeah, for sure.
So, so
Um,
that's what I'm looking forward to the most. But yeah, I think honestly, you saying Blue Point has me really intrigued though.
yeah, cause like we, so the quote was that they're working on original content for their next game. But then like, so obviously people are like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean new
Yeah, it's
IP
such
or
a
does
vague
that
yeah, it's such a vague term.
right? Or does it mean we're working on another remake, but we are like adding brand new content to that remake, right?
Right.
The reason why I think it's a new IP is because after in that same conversation, he said that's the next evolution, like that's the next step in our evolution. And so I feel like the next step is the key here, right? Because Blue Point they started off with like, you know, like doing ports and then they move on to like collections and then they move on to remasters. After that, the next step was full blown remakes with Shadow Colossus and Demon Souls. What is the next step? Doing something original, right? So him saying that the
Right.
next step for our evolution is original content. That leads me to believe that they're working on something like brand new that's their own game. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe that I get from that quote.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong because what every studio wants to work on is their own baby, right? Their own
Yeah,
creation, their own original idea. That's why we see so many. That's why we see the birth of so many new studios nowadays
yeah,
because it's people breaking off and wanted to make their own thing. So in PlayStation, as we've heard before, multiple times, that they love new ideas and they love working with that, and they're not afraid to kick it to the curb when nothing's when things are not happening, but when an idea is there, it's there, and they're going to support it. That's why we got Returnal.
yeah,
So, but that's why we got Ghost of Tsushima and everything else. So, regardless, yeah, I think Blue Point, yeah, that one sticks out to me the most because of their pedigree. So
yeah, definitely.
that'd be a good one too. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm very,
they're gonna need it after Microsoft buying up everything. So
yeah, for sure.
and
Um,
Embracer Group.
yeah, but yeah, that is gonna do it for the podcast. We made it work. We filled out 2 hours, so we made it work.
I
Um,
think an hour was just talking about Final Fantasy, so you're welcome, everybody.
but yeah, without want to remind everyone again to go ahead and like the podcast, subscribe, all that good stuff. Macho, what
Yeah.
you got going on this week?
Um, I mentioned before. I'm gonna see if maybe today I can get around into the Lord of the Rings: The Living Card game and really mess around with that. Because I obviously I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I'm getting way more into it now. I actually started. So I actually started the audiobook for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. After I know I just finished reading the entire trilogy like a couple months ago, but I'm listening to the audiobook with Andy Serkis as the voice.
Oh, okay.
So he's narrating the entire thing, all three books, and I'm so excited to get through it because his Gandalf is awesome, and yeah. So I'm getting back to my Lord of the Rings nerds. I'm gonna play the Living Card game today. More Final Fantasy 16. I'm chipping away at the Platinum Trophy. I have to do the Chronologist trials. I have to get one or two more. I think one more friendship gifts. I use such a corny term for it, but it's one of the presents you get from different characters throughout the game. And Clive has like a memorabilia wall of all the stuff he's earned throughout the game. So I need to get one more of those. Do one more hunting hunting trial for the game, and I get to replay the game in Final Fantasy mode. So I'm gonna chip away at that, and I think that's it. It's mostly just been 516. I want to get back to Street Fighter 6 though. I'm really waiting for my leverless arcade stick from Razer, but they don't have a release date on that. But I want to wait for that to get back into Street Fighter 6. I really want to keep playing it. Like during my workouts throughout the week, I literally just put up tournaments of Street Fighter 6 because it makes the time go by faster. But the game's just so much fun to watch, man, and I want to get back to it so badly, but I hate the idea of learning a new character like DJ or Marissa and then getting the fight stick and then also have to relearn the entire game and how I play these characters. It's gonna end up what's gonna be happening. So eventually I want to get back to Street Fighter 6. Maybe more Diablo. I have no idea where Walt is. We haven't been playing since he started his new job. But eventually get back to Diablo 4, and then really T minus, 18 days, give or take, 18, 19 days, maybe a little more, till Baldur's Gate 3, man, August 3rd. Ready to get into it.
Man, I'm jealous.
To be, I'm just busting your balls. To be honest, I probably won't even be playing it the day of because I'm playing through so many stuff, and I want to get back into Final Fantasy 14 too, as well.
And they moved up the release date for PC,
Yes,
not on
sir.
PlayStation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get that PC, bro.
Hate to see it. Hate to see it.
Hey, man, I love to
Oh,
see. I got a PC. I'm gonna play. I'm playing my
all
Steam Deck.
right,
I'll
all
take a
right.
picture. I'll put it in the Discord and everything. I'm just
All
like,
right, all right.
it's
Um,
we'll see.
as
We'll see. That game is beefy from what I hear, dude.
I
It
got
is
so much content.
so like in ridiculously amount. So I have no idea if I'm gonna play it day one or not because like I said I want to get to Final 14. Still playing 16. Want to Street Fighter 6. So and Diablo 4. So I have no idea when I play it day one. So you're probably gonna play it and beat it before I do, honestly.
We'll see. There's a lot coming in that time, so we'll see.
What
Um,
about you, man?
yeah, for me, let's see. Honestly, not too much. Probably just more FF10. Um, I think that's it. I'm not really watching anything currently either. So yeah, that's honestly really all that I have going on this week. Probably.
Are you gonna
Uh,
rewatch The Last of Us before the Emmy stuff? Because I know
nah,
they got nominated, but
nah, I don't really care about that.
oh, okay.
Oh, but yeah. Oh, the your boy Bob Iger's getting into some. He's getting into some
I wonder if we were gonna talk about the yeah, my boy Bob. He says some stupid shit, man. Listen,
we're not talking about
heroes sometimes miss their layups too, dude.
that.
So
So easy to just stay quiet, but nope.
yeah,
Um,
it's such a weird thing though, right? Because it feels like they're at the behest of the shareholders and the board members, right? So they feel like they have to
You
say
know,
something, but then they really don't need to, and they tend to putting their foot in their mouth. So yeah, my boy Bob Iger is not. He's going through right now. So you
but
better.
it's also like, Bob, just be a human being, you know. That's all you
Yeah,
gotta do.
yeah. That's exactly why I bought your book, Bob. Come on, man. You're such an inspiring human being. Don't be a dickbag right now. Come on.
But yeah, that's gonna do it for DualShock and Sense episode 105. We will see you guys next time for 106. I don't know if anything. I don't think anything big is happening between now and then. But we'll see. We'll see.
But what the next one will probably be the 29th, so no.
Well
Did you know that Exo Primo came out a couple days ago?
End the podcast. End the podcast. Peace out, guys.